What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Question the Narrative. I'm David Shane, and my co host is Ricardo, and we have a very special guest with us today. His name is Cody, but most of you probably know him as Seven Club. What's up, Seven Club?
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Thanks for
what's
having
up?
me. I love the show, and I'm excited to finally get to jump on with you guys. Big fan of both y'all's work, and it's meant
Thank you.
to be. I'm glad it's tonight, and I'm glad that we're rolling, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you, buddy. Good to meet you. So we got Seven Club here, and we got a interesting topic. I know that Shane and I have kind of discussed this in previous episode with JT, and Seven Club is going to just dig more deeply into it. He kind of has a little presentation that he has for us, and we're actually going to be going over the moon map, and this is going to be a fun one, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah!
So,
All right.
Cody, whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead and do your thing, and we'll kind of just interject here and there. If you want to make sure to let our listeners know where they can find you at on social media and what all platforms you're on, and maybe even tell them a little bit about yourself and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I go by the handle Seven Club, and I'm mainly a TikTok guy, and I got a YouTube as well. But all my other stuff you can just find from my TikTok. I got a little link in there. And I'm a flat earther, and that's kind of where I started my content off at, was flat earth and just any kind of truther stuff. And we're all just kind of on this journey together. We've falsified the globe together, and now we're just trying to, you know, figure out what else they're lying to us about. And I was a flat earther on the AE map for the longest time, and I still believe that that's our map of the known land. But once I started doing a little bit more research on some things, I'd looked into that moon map that people had seen. A lot of people just throw it off to the side immediately and say, oh no, that's not it. One of their main reasonings that I've heard is, that doesn't look exactly like our land, is what they'll say. But we already know that all maps are inaccurate. I mean, all of
Yeah.
them are.
Yeah,
So
how can you say with such certainty this is exactly what it looks like and we know for sure?
right,
You can't do that.
exactly.
No.
So if every map's wrong, then I mean, that could mean that this one's the only right one, and they're just trying to, deflect our attention away.
Yeah,
Who
for
knows?
sure.
But
Yeah, man.
we'll take a look at that map. One guy, he was so convicted here on this map, says that it can't be because this one seems to be the most accurate. But the problem is, it's like, just because, we're looking into the moon map doesn't really take away from this other map, really, honestly.
True.
It's like this still exists. It just exists, right there. It's just a quarter, about
Yeah.
1/4 of possibly the other known land, which it's kind of
Yeah.
neat. When you look at the moon, it is kind of strange, the two different, colorations on the moon. Or David, you've probably seen quite a few different shades on the moon. You've looked closer to the moon than anybody I know.
Oh yeah.
And little kids, I know of a lot of little kids who've looked up at the moon and they've been like, that looks like Earth,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've even you know how they say that water has memory. Like if you take water and freeze it at whatever image that was reflecting onto the surface of water will kind of be frozen into the ice for like forever.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
so and I think y'all have probably seen, I've stated this in a few of my videos where I did close ups of the moon, that some nights I swear the moon looks like ice. It looks like ice, especially in certain areas. And the dark features, which in this instance with the moon map would be the land masses. The dark features have a slightish brown tint to them, and that would make sense if it's somehow, a reflection of our known world, of our continents, of our land masses. It would make sense that it has that brown tint to it. So it's definitely interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what were your first thoughts when someone presented this information to you? Because I know when I first came across it, it was a video that I found like on BitChute, and it was that one that's on the very top right there, that one. And they literally had all the lands named out and to a T, and that's what kind of caught my attention.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just very intriguing. Like, wow, this could really be, they could really be onto something. What was your first reaction when you came across this?
Same thing. It's like, when you feel something hit your spirit, it just kind of resonates and you feel
Mm-hmm.
something. You feel something a
Yeah.
little deeper. And that's what I felt when I saw the initial, moon map. I was like, huh. It kind of just gave me that feeling. But then other things started connecting later. And then it was one day when I saw the clock in Prague, which this is the one that hit me and made me resonate.
Yeah.
And there was other things shown on this. There was this reminded me of that Mason that was showing that he did that drawing. Have you guys seen that video of the Freemason that drew up his depiction of the Earth, and it was a flat disc with a dome, and he drew the square and compass. You see the square and compass shape there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was thinking, oh, he must know a secret, and then I started looking into some of these other things on this map, and it was really hitting me. And then, so this map's in German. Now I've tried to translate it. And this is a scripture. It's John 14:6 and 6:56. I am the way, the truth, and the light. No
Yeah.
one gets to the Father except through me, Jesus Christ.
Right.
And, I'm like, okay, so whoever made this map, they're looking at it from biblical perspectives. And there was just a bunch of stuff in the Clock of Prague, which we'll kind of go through some more of these again. But this one, and it was the other day, right before I started making content on this. It was I was in a live, or I don't know what was going on, but I just saw this clock in Prague, and it just all hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So this clock has the constellations and the sun and the moon, but I've always just kind of looked at it and been like, oh, cool, yeah, that's a geocentric, mapping. But then I took a closer look and realized the sun and the moon are connected here in the center of this constellation wheel, showing that the sun and moon circle this. Now, if you look at that and pretend that is the moon map, then you'll see an area in which the sun circuits, and then that area itself of the sun circuit would then move around this bigger circle. So I was like, oh, and it just all at once, I was like, oh, okay. So the clock in Prague might depict a world like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then my next thoughts were, okay, I'll entertain it. I'll entertain the idea. But in order for this to even have an ounce of validity, for me to even entertain this, a few things have to be happening. A, the ice of Antarctica needs to be melting here toward the southern tip of Africa. Has to be melting.
Right.
The ice has to be constantly freezing. Elevation would have to be raising over here at the southern tip of South America. The magnetic field would have to be moving. Our magnetic north would have to be moving in that direction. If those three things are not happening, then this has no validity, and I'm not going to go even an inch further in it.
Okay.
Well, I looked it up. Not only is this ice in this region melting, this ice in this region is freezing, and the southern tip of South America is increasingly getting colder, right? And then check this out. This is the home run hitter here. The Sahara Desert in Africa. You see this this tropic right here that's dead center over the desert.
Mm-hmm.
This desert is constantly expanding south in Africa, as if this tropic is slowly moving this way.
Wow.
It's everything's
Dude.
happening that should be on this, and the magnetic north is moving. That's what they're saying now.
Right.
Now
right.
But here's what I see with this whole thing, right? So we've got the AE map, right? That's stationary, stays there, doesn't move. The North Pole doesn't move. The magnetic north doesn't move. Nothing moves, right? But the narrative is that it does. Now, the narrative is the globe. We've got pole shifts. We've got ice ages. We've got all these things that the globe subscribes to, you know, and the narrative is going to use that. Now, a lot of these things aren't going to be even verifiable until we went into enough time to where we have something to compare it to. So, but when that happens, see, my fear is they're going to use that as a globe narrative, be like, oh, look, the pole is shifting. That's a globe thing. Because it doesn't work on the flat earth is what they're going to say. You know, they're going to use that as a straw man of the flat earth model. But if there's more lands, if this is moving in a circuit that takes thousands of years, whatever, then in 1,000 years from now, if we have this map, they can't use that excuse anymore.
That's true.
Because, you know it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard something a while back as well, just with the whole Antarctica and the ice melting and all of that too. It was probably like only a couple years ago when I think that a lot of people were talking about that even on TikTok. But that's
Yeah.
interesting because the map that we're presented, it makes the Earth a lot smaller than it actually is. And I think that, you know, even if you get these amateur drone footages that go up like, you know, 120,000 feet or something like that, and the Earth looks enormous, and I think it's a lot bigger than what we're actually told. And you know, with the whole globe, it kind of puts you in a box. It's like, well, this is all there is. This is what how big the Earth is. We know exactly, you know, because they map it out. This is the circumference and whatever, you know, and we know for sure, you know, don't worry about it. This is all there is to see.
Right.
You know, there you go. Okay, go back to that. Yeah, that right there. So that's the Gleason
It is.
maps like superimposed over the moon map, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Yeah.
that lines up perfectly.
Yeah, I stuck that little guy there. And to show people, because they were saying, you know, no, it's the AE map, it's the AE map. I was like, hey, this doesn't take away from that. It's the AE and more. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's our known flat Earth model. But you know, if there's more lands, then that the Gleason model, or just the standard this model, is the same concept as the globe. Look, if there's more land out there,
True.
then what they're doing here is just, it's a prison planet. It's the flat Earth version of the prison planet, you know, because the
Yeah.
globe is that they've wrapped it up and said, oh, there's nothing else to see here. Well,
Yeah.
so is this then.
Yeah, it's
I
almost
mean,
like the controlled op. And I've always had a problem with, even on the flat earth model side, where even they claim this is exactly how it is. And I'm like, no, I mean, I'm not on either side, because I don't think anyone knows for sure what we're living on. I mean, how could you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We we know we know what we experience, what we observe, what we feel, what we see, and we're not even allowed to go past the 60th parallel. You know what I mean? But I do believe that there are other lands. That's me personally. And Seven Club, I like what you said. That the globe it's all on that ball. That's all the land there is. No need in searching for any more lands. So if you've got the same thing happening with that AE map, that flat, that particular flat Earth map, it's the same problem. There's no
Mm-hmm.
more land. There's no point in searching. And I think that's what they want. They
Yeah.
they want us to believe there's no other lands, and they want us to just be complacent and content with what they've given us and allowed us to have, so we don't go searching, because the last thing they want is for us to actually go find more lands and a place that we can go escape their rule, their tyranny, their taxes, their authority. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if we were able to do that, they would lose all of their power and authority almost immediately, and they
Yeah.
can't have that. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that they would just go to great lengths to keep us from discovering or even knowing about these other lands. But Admiral Byrd found it. I mean, I think that what he said about his discoveries and his exhibitions, I think he's credible. I think he was telling the truth. I really believe he found another continent the size of North America, and it's no coincidence that within a year or two after that, NASA's formed and they get everyone looking up into the sky for more land instead of out beyond, you know? That's the outer space beyond the ice
Exactly.
wall.
That's exactly.
Yep.
Um,
Look at this
but
elevation map too. So with that extra land, if we're moving into that extra land right now, if the
mhm.
clock in Prague, depicts what we've been talking about here on this, and this land right here is getting ready to become inhabitable. Well, if you look at Antarctica and how it's sectioned off, so West Antarctica is what's melting, East Antarctica is what's freezing. So then you look at the split here. This is the split. They split it right in half. They got
Mm.
this
Hmm.
side over here is melting, this side over here is freezing, and they got the South Pole right in the middle, right? And
Yeah.
then you look at the elevation charts on it. Well, the side that's freezing, the elevation's so much higher, you
Well,
know. And if you were to pop a hole in this, in the center here, and lay it out, kind of like, imagine this circle here is a ball that's been folded and stretched into the center. You pop a hole there and flatten it out to a flat Earth map, and this be a brim. Well, then that's what that brim's typically going to look like. It's going
hmm.
to look a lot like that, as far as where it should be freezing, where it should be melting. And then this map. So this one really struck me,
I like
because
that one.
Yeah.
you look in the center of this, right? It says pole Arctic, right? Or something. But this is the Mercator, right?
Yeah.
And none of this looks familiar to me. Like, none of this
No.
land looks familiar. But then when you go look at these maps, you go to the very center of it, and you've got kind of the same concept. The black little center and the four sections
Wow.
coming from it, four rivers, right?
Rupus
Mm.
nigra.
Oh, dude.
So what if the Mercator is actually the center of this map? What if it's the true north? Because hear me
Mm.
out on this. When I asked about the pole moving, which we'll come back to a few of these things, but I was asking about the pole, the North Pole, right? It says yes. Earth's magnetic North Pole is gradually shifting and moving northwest, it says. But how can magnetic north itself move north? Because You know,
That's a good one. Yeah.
so how could it be moving northwest? But now, if we go back and look, if our magnetic north is in the center of this, right?
It's moving northwest on that, according to that. Yeah.
Northwest compared
Right.
to the very center of this, or even, hey, what if that's it? You know, what if that's the center of Mercator, and it's the reflection of the Tycho Brahe or whatever? Is that the name of that crater?
Yeah,
What's in,
yeah, that sounds
uh,
like the it's
and that
Tycho something. I don't know how, how they pronounce it, but yeah, that's you'll see that same crater on the apex of the moon.
mm-hmm,
Or, it's in the same spot, and it's always there, and it's right there at the top, at the apex.
right,
Uh,
and it's like, so what about when you go to certain parts of Antarctica? They say that once you get there, your compass starts spinning and going wonky. Is it because it's fighting between two magnetic norths? Because it wouldn't do that on a north south. You know, it would stay in the same direction, especially if it was truly like a bar magnet, this globe, so to speak,
yeah,
and it was a magnetized needle, positive and negative charge. It wouldn't flip unless it was fighting between two magnetic poles, two magnetic
Hmm.
norths. So it starts flipping, they say. I mean, that's the narrative too. That's what the Globers say. That's what NASA says. That's what the people who've been to Antarctica say. They say when you go to certain parts of Antarctica, your compass will start spinning as if it's fighting between two strong norths. So
interesting.
I was really into calling this the 4-quarter thing for a while because 4 quarters just kept popping up
Right.
in ancient
That's in
cosmology.
Revelation too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's funny how it's divided because you would think it'd be divided north, south, east, and west, but look how this is divided. It's divided
Mhm.
in 4 quarters.
It's like a pie.
Yeah. Enoch talks about 4 quarters,
yep,
right? It's in Jeremiah, it's in Ezekiel, Revelation. And then here's what's funny though. The definition of quarter. You know how words mean something, right? So it says
Yeah.
one definition is the each of 4 equal corresponding parts into which something can be divided. But then another definition of quarter is to be stationed or lodged in a specific place, right? Or your dwelling place, your dwelling quarters. Many were quartered
Right.
in tents. So is it just a coincidence that when it comes to this, comes to the clock in Prague, comes to this map, this 1/4 area is also the area in which we dwell, in which we can exist, the place we are, the place we have to be, because that's where the sun travels to warm the land. So that is a quarter, and it's a quarter, you know?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Isn't that
yeah.
interesting?
It is. We were
Very.
talking about that with our podcast episode with JT about just how the sun, in its circuit, it may be moving in different directions, and as it moves in different directions, it's freezing over in other directions, like what you're saying. So it seems like, according to that map and everything that you're saying, it's moving to the west, and so the east is freezing over, and so that may very well be, just wherever the sun is rotating around the earth in that little area, that's where it's inhabitable, and then eventually, as it's moving, the other places become uninhabitable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. That's what they would call when we find
An
the
ice
remnants.
age.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And when we start finding the remnants, the mammoths, the different titans, the you know, all these things, the structures, the pyramids and different stuff that's found in the melting ice of Antarctica, they have found probably more than what they're telling us. But
oh yeah,
I was thinking about this too, because this came up and I ended up making a video on it. But you guys remember the anomaly blob that came out of Antarctica and was heading up through the oceans? Just for shoots and googies, I thought to myself, hey, well, I wonder which region of Antarctica that blob came out of, because it would be funny if it was in the region that's supposedly melting in this moon maps perspective, right? And sure enough, I go and look, and it came out of right here, man.
No way.
Yes, the southern tip of Africa, where it's melting. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's Leviathan, it's this and that." But these giant creatures that's been told to have existed, thousands of years ago, and will again, rain the waters and rain the skies and whatever else, dragons, whatever, leviathans, whatever it might be. What if they're suspended in the ice, like frozen there because of the shift or whatever happened to freeze them, and then when they unfreeze, they thaw out, come back, and let's just say whatever it was, that blob, it was creating 80-foot waves. So
Dang.
whatever it was, a lot of people believe it was possibly HARP, and I think HARP ended up taking credit for it. That's what I heard from somebody, but don't quote me on that. But either way,
It's not. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense either. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Doesn't make sense for HARP to take credit for anything, does it? You know what I mean? Unless they're just trying to distract you, or to get you to believe a certain narrative.
Yeah, I almost think it's a double conspiracy. See, I almost think that HARP sometimes takes credit for things and tries to make it seem like a cover up. But see, every time HARP's done something, it's been like that to find out. It's like, oh, the auroras that are going on. Okay. What is this? Oh, HARP was doing tests. Oh, and they're the Aurora research facility. Okay. We can think that. We can think HARP did it. Or that was a sign from God, but HARP wants to take credit for it. And they don't admit that it was them, but somehow lead a little trail of breadcrumbs for the conspiracy theorists to give them credit for all major weather events, for all everything, when it really could be signs from God. It could be, God doing these things, and they want to act like they have more power than they do. Now, can they control the weather? Yes, to a certain extent, I do believe they can. I do believe they have technology and can modify weather. Absolutely. Seed clouds. Yep. They got earthquake machines. They've got, Tesla accidentally made an earthquake machine back when he was working his coils and stuff, creating ripple waves that grew and grew and then started seismic activity 6 miles down the way. So I do believe they have it, but I think they stretch and push and try to kind of play God in that aspect sometimes too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, because the last thing they want anyone to believe is in a all-powerful creator, you know what I mean, that may very well just be, like you said, sending us signs and wonders in the heavens, and they would definitely not want people to believe that, and in that instance take credit for it. Man, it's so hard to say, because they're so good at keeping everyone thrown off and confused. I like that.
Me too. The globe is dying.
It's on life support.
Yeah. He's over with. But
yeah,
the whole idea, another cool thing is the climate. People are like, here we are, we're making our world so sick, and it's you pesky people. You're putting too much carbon. Your carbon footprint, is too much, and you're driving your car, you're doing your things, and you're killing the planet. And they're saying it's global warming and stuff. But if it's doing this and going through its cycles, then it's going to be having the appearance, as Antarctica melts. See, that's the crazy thing. With global warming, all they're talking about is the ice caps freezing. Antarctica freezing. But on the other side, simultaneously, melting. They're talking about the ice melting and all this stuff. But simultaneously, on the other side, it's freezing. So there's an
That's what they don't tell you. Yeah.
it's an equal and opposite thing.
Hey,
So it's like, climate is changing, but it's due to something else, I
Yeah.
believe.
And we're continually getting gaslit on every corner. You know what I mean?
hold on. So on a ball, if on the bottom of a ball that's, rotating once every 24 hours, like they say, how is it possible that only half of Antarctica could be melting and the other half is freezing even worse? Like you said, that would be impossible on the ball because you know what I mean. It's supposed to be making one full rotation every day, so that can't make any sense for only half of Antarctica to be melting on any other model except the one you just showed us.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way that could make sense. The only way it could be possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do
Yeah.
they? Wow, man, these
So
Globers will believe anything.
oh my gosh, I know. And that's what I think it is. I think it's a long game. And a lot of people were saying that Eric, and I don't know. I'm just going to throw this out what I've heard other people say that, Eric Dubé was possibly the gatekeeper for flat earth. Like, he was the one who hit the scene, presented the map and everything. People were concerned that he was invited to a lot of conventions, a lot of public get-togethers on the flat earth to speak and to do different things, but he didn't show up to a lot of those things. So it drew a lot of attention to people's minds saying, well, maybe he's a shill of sorts. Now, I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is, if someone had a map and they presented it and showed it, right, and that map had the same limits that a globe did, then it would be a little bit strange. And it would almost make you feel like, okay, so if this news were getting out, like let's say that it was getting out, let's say this was getting out, let's say the moon map, the more lands and all that stuff was getting ready to hit the scene. There's been already a few people figuring it out, and the news is spreading quick. I mean, if you were the government that was concealing it, and you saw how fast it was spreading, wouldn't you think to yourself, okay, we've got to we couldn't stop this at the first gate, so now we need to set up another gate. They figured out it's flat. We're not going to keep them from doing that. But
Right.
now we need to limit them. Now we need to stop them at the ice wall and have them not go beyond, like literally and
Yeah.
figuratively. We got to stop them at the ice wall. We can't let them get beyond that ice and know that there's, more land and stuff like that. Which they give us this, right?
Right.
And this. But
Yeah, and honestly, that's a good point that you bring up, because that's the whole point in gatekeepers, as far as, I feel like, confidently that Alex Jones would be one of those. It's these gatekeepers, they bring you a lot of truth, but they only bring you up to a certain point, and they'll never take you past that point. You know what I mean? And you brought up Dubé. I'm not saying I don't know enough about him to say yes or no. I know he has a lot of good info, but the purpose of a gatekeeper is to give you a lot of truth, but then keep you in this little box, and you can't go outside that little box. You know what I'm saying? And it's just crazy how that's just so prevalent today, and a lot of people, even in like politics and stuff, they're like, oh, these people are alternative media, whenever they're just basically parroting the same thing that the mainstream is, and they're just slightly giving a different take. Like they don't have any new stuff that they come out. It's just like their whole, say, like YouTube channel is just literally following mainstream media headlines and then just giving their little counter spin on it. Like they have nothing new to offer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a truth sandwich. They
Yeah.
sandwich the lie in between two truths, and it's like you can't see the lie for the two truths that it's in between, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
you go to take a bite, and it looks so juicy and good. Top bread's truth, bottom bread's truth. It's gonna be great. And then boom, you bit into a lie before you knew it. And
That's good.
That's good. That's funny.
and it's so true. It's how they get us, man.
Mm-hmm.
It is true. So that's that thing you had there about Antarctica, about the Sahara
Uh-huh.
expanding. So is this something? Are they claiming this, or is this something you verified? Is the Sahara Desert in fact expanding by more than 7,600 square kilometers?
Well, this is the narrative. So this is what Google says. This is what climate scientists and all those guys say, that the Sahara, in fact, is expanding, which works on the moon map, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think they inflate numbers. I think, I think they do this with timelines too, because remember I was talking about how Africa, the Sahara is growing, the tip of South Africa at the Antarctic ice wall is melting, but then on the other side, and it's funny because you ever notice, oh man, I don't know if this means anything, but you ever notice, and I get the two mixed up. If one wasn't way bigger than the other, I would get them both mixed up. But have you noticed that Africa and South America are shaped the same?
I did not know that.
Yeah, they're shaped pretty much the same. They look a lot alike. But
They
one's
do
just
look a
bigger
lot
than the
alike.
other. You know, they're shaped a
Yeah.
lot the same as far as how they're shaped, and they're on
Mm-hmm.
opposite ends here. One's Africa, one's South America. So I was looking into South America
Hmm.
and its climate, because as its tropic moves away and the ice gets colder and colder on its tip, um, it's right here, or wait, here. Yeah. In May 2024, Chile experienced its coldest May in 74 years due to a series of polar air masses, they say, that moved over the continent. The cold front broke records Santiago and along the coast, with temperatures dropping below 0 Celsius in some areas. So it's getting colder there. I thought this was
Hmm.
funny because you ask, will the Sahara Desert be green again? That's what I asked, because if the tropic is moving over it, pushing south, and the desert's growing south, well then eventually that tropic will stop touching the northern tip, right? So I'm wondering when it's going to become green again then in this narrative. And they say a 41,000 year cycle in which the tilt of the earth changes between 22 degrees and 24.5 at present. It is a dry period, but it is expected that Sahara will become green again in 15,000 years.
Oh wow.
I'm
Yeah.
sure those are inflated numbers, but
Oh yeah.
That's very comforting for all of us here right now, right?
Yeah.
15,000 years.
They always do that. They always set stuff far enough in the past that we don't remember it because it's too long
Yep.
ago, or far enough in the future that you're not going to be alive to see it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always do that. So what's interesting about that is there is actually Bible prophecy about, I think, about, I can't think of the verse or chapter at the moment, but where God says that he will make, what is it? Water spring forth in the desert and in the dry places.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't
Come on.
I think that's like in Isaiah.
It's somewhere in Isaiah. Yeah.
It might be.
Yeah, I
That's
remember reading
interesting.
that.
Well,
Oh,
now we
go
thanks
ahead.
to your your research on this moon map here, now I can see how that is not only biblically possible. I see how God is gonna make it, how he can make it happen, physically and scientifically as well.
Yeah.
With that pole shifting, I mean, that makes perfect sense that deserts will not only will water start springing forth, but like you said, they'll start to grow grass and vegetation. They'll start to turn green, while other places will dry up and become desert. Some places will start to freeze. That all makes sense with this moon map thing, man.
Yeah, and that's where, we got our real big anti-climate guys. Well, if it's changing, it's changing. We can't refute that, you know what I mean? So the idea is the climate change is totally a globe thing. But,
Hmm.
if the evidence goes like you're saying, and it's speeding up too. So the magnetic north that's moving, it has sped up by like, it was like, oh, I think I have the um no, I have the numbers here of what they say anyway. Okay, right here. Look at the speed. It says the North Pole, as of early 2019, it was moving from Canada towards Siberia at a rate of about 34 miles a year. Right? The
Mhm.
NOAA predicts that in 2024, the magnetic North Pole will be located at 68 degrees north, 142 degrees east, and by 2025, it will have drifted to 138 degrees east. It says the magnetic North Pole's forward speed has increased over time from about 10 miles a year in the early 20th century to roughly 34 miles a year. So
Hmm.
it's tripled
Right.
since early 20th century.
Yeah,
Wow.
and we had a guest on. It was probably one of our first couple of episodes, and his name is Paul Stobbs from Understanding Conspiracy.
Yeah,
And
love that dude.
yeah, and he was talking about that magnetic north drifting towards the Siberia, and it said it there on your little slideshow right there about it being in Siberia, and that is supposedly the broadest plane in the entire, like, I guess, known world. And in the book of Revelation, where it talks about the war of Gog and Magog, and how they will surround the camp of the saints in the broad plain of the earth. And he was
Ooh,
just pointing out that the magnetic north is moving that way. And a lot of people have theorized, what if that magnetic north, or that energy, is actually Jesus and his city kind of hovering over us? I don't know. I mean,
New
I'm just,
Jerusalem. Yeah, could be,
yeah,
dude. Yeah, could be, bro.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
I think it's
It's
either
interesting.
For sure.
there or eh, dude. Okay,
Let's go.
we gotta come right back to that. Okay, because we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna touch on that. All right, so um, real quick, this guy Barry Stepp put my video in a one of his, and I was kind of looking through the comments, and this dude said this, and I'm like, maybe this is like a rabbit hole in itself. He was talking about, holy crap, the 4-quarter Earth guy, the circle and cross is a Hopi symbol left by the Pahana in the beginning of time. That symbol and the Swats, the oldest peace symbol, was left to to
I get
identify
it.
right when
Yeah.
when they turned to America and disappeared shortly after leaving the symbols, right? So I'm like, okay, I want to just look into this, see if there's anything to it. So I look into this symbol and stuff. Not important, but the only reason it is important is if it's a symbol for the sun, which this is kind of crazy, but if we take a second look at this map and kind of go in real close, look at it.
Oh
It's
wow.
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So this was a symbol of this ancient people. Now, this was a huge this hit me like a ton of bricks because I start researching this. Physical traits, that's about the Hopi. Not super important, but if you guys want to pause and read that, you can. But this symbol, this was a hieroglyph that they
Yeah.
had written on one of their stones, and this is a prophecy, and the prophecy was translated, and I found that to be really interesting. But it says, this petroglyph was a prophecy rock, which symbolizes the many Hopi prophecies its interpretation is the large human figure on the left is the Great Spirit. The bow in his left hand represents his instructions to the Hopi to lay down their weapons. The vertical line to the right of the Great Spirit is a time scale in thousands of years. The point at which the Great Spirit touches the line is the time of his return. The life path established by the Great Spirit divides into the lower narrow path of continuous life in harmony with nature and the wide upper road of white man's scientific achievements. The bar between the two paths above the cross is the coming of the white men. The cross is that of Christianity. The circle below the cross represents the continuous path of life. The four small human figures on the upper road represent, on one level, the past three worlds and the present. On another level, the figures indicate that some of the Hopi will travel the white man's path, having been seduced by his glamour. The two circles on the lower path of life are the great shaking of earth, right? So then this goes into what this symbol means. It's talking about the purification and the abundance. Corn will grow in abundance again when the Great Spirit returns and the path of life continues, and all these references, right? And to basically that map, if you really think about it. So then I found this article, and it says, did a little known Hopi prophecy come true in 2015? And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to read this article. I'm kind of going through it, and a couple things stood out right here. This dude named Dr. James Hansen, an ex-NASA climate scientist. So they're talking about this prophecy, talking about the moving of the sun and the past three worlds and now the known world, you know. And I'm just seeing this map. I'm seeing it all work out. And I know that they're going to use this as climate, you know, change and all this stuff. So I find this NASA dude with these people in this climate movement. And it's all about climate change. And they're doing this whole thing. And so I look into this guy a little more, NASA guy, and I watch a presentation of his. And look what he's talking about. He's talking about the ice sheets and how they're changing and melting and all these different things. So then I'm doing this live and I'm talking about all this, and Truth Repeater jumps in and he's like, bro, if you think about it, that map or the clock in Prague kind of looks like the seed of life pattern if you imagine it going all the way around it, you know, and then there's a part in the center.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of circles. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's like seven circles inside of one bigger circle. And it's, you know, some people say it represents the 7 days of creation. So I laid it on top of there, and, you know, it just goes around. Well, what if it spirals around and then just all the way until it finally lands in the center? And if you think about it, if this known land circles around, then there's going to be one place that always gets light. It's always gonna be inhabitable, always going to have light, always going to be fine. And it's that true north center here, if that's a true place.
Yeah.
But that could
I don't know how you got. Go ahead.
My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just want to say that could be maybe where the Garden of Eden is, or the Camp of the Saints. Like you said, that area would always be like the perfect climate, wouldn't it? Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Theoretically. Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
And it could be the land that's beyond the ice wall, you know, even.
Yeah.
Because, like, if there is one place that's right beyond, you know, who knows? But I don't know how you guys feel about Second Enoch. You know, I kind of agree with what JT said about it. It's just like, no, you know, we don't. But sure, it has some truth in it. Sure, it has some good things. Wouldn't call it scripture exactly, but this is an interesting passage from there. It says, and go ahead.
My bad. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It says, I gave the command, let there be taken some of the light and some of the darkness. And I said, become thickened and be wrapped around with light. And I spread it out, and it became water. And I spread it out above the darkness below the light. And thus I made the solid waters, that is to say, the bottomless. And I made a foundation of light around the water, and I created 7 great circles inside of it. And I gave them an appearance of crystal, wet and dry, that is to say, glass and ice, and to be the circuit for water and the other elements. Now, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you showed us that passage in Enoch is the first thing that came to mind when you mentioned the 7 circles that are in it. That's
Yeah.
immediately what I thought of because I read first and second Enoch, part of third. But that's the first thing that came to mind was the 7 circles that Enoch talked about.
Yeah, and they call this sacred geometry, right? So this is to represent the 7 days of creation. On the last day, he rested. That's the 7th circle is the one in the center. So if it's the resting place, if that mountain, Mount Meru or Mount Zion or whatever, that thing in the north, like is the place, is the kingdom, that God lives now. See, I thought of this. I thought of Hebrews. At the end of Hebrews chapter 12, the last couple verses says something really interesting. Once again, I will shake not only the earth, but the heavens also. This means that all of creation will be shaken and removed, so that only unshakable things will remain. Since we are receiving a kingdom that is unshakable, let us be thankful and please God by worshiping Him with holy fear and awe, for our God is a devouring fire.
Wow. I like that.
So I think of that. I think of the unshakable kingdom. So if this thing is over all these years spiraling and whatever's left behind is a desolate place and it's just spiraling to a final center resting point where Jesus is the light, and the sun is even what dissipating as everything is, then at the final days, I don't know, it's just a theory, but the final resting place is this center where we're all together, man.
Dude, that's a
I was,
good theory. I like it.
That's very interesting. I haven't ever heard that before, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't either. And it's like I said, I just think that our reality isn't as simple as some may make it out to be. Like it's just so much more complex, and even like how it says that God's thoughts are beyond ours and past finding out. Like I just feel like that's how our creation is. It's just like how would you ever figure it out in this flesh, in this life, exactly what it is? You know what I'm saying? And it's
right.
just it's interesting to me, and I don't understand how some people they get so offended when you just bring something up outside of the norm, and some people actually get mad, but it's just like I genuinely don't know why people get mad, because it's just you don't know for sure, like why you getting mad at this person for maybe trying to bring an alternate opinion, because I think that you might be onto something. You know what I mean? So why get mad about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I jumped when you were talking about New Jerusalem being the magnetic north that's moving right now,
Right.
because all life is in spirals. The Fibonacci sequence, it's a spiral sequence. Everything is spirals. It was spiral. We are a spiral when we're in our mother's womb. We start out as this little spiral and we unspiral into a human. Everything is spirals. Well, if New Jerusalem is floating here above that magnetic north and it's constantly going, well, what if it goes, and then ends up over this and then, drops down or something? I don't know. But that's what it seems to be doing, is a circle and a spiral. I don't know if it's going into the center. I don't know. But when all these things line up in this way, because usually I don't jump on board with things. Typically, I'll start researching something and I'll get a few things through, and then I'm like, oh, okay. But this thing has been driving me nuts, because everything I'm running into, it's all adding up, in such strange ways. And then all my
Right.
brothers and sisters out here that are kind of looking into similar stuff. You know what's crazy is all our avenues now are bottlenecking into this place where, you know, I had a few of my friends that were real into short season, you guys, and
Right.
JT and understanding conspiracy, those guys, and I'm kind of watching you guys. At the same time, this map pops up to me, and then I go start listening to you guys on your streams and hear JT mention this, and then he has me on, and we collab together on it, and it's like without us even, like, you guys were over there, I was over here, these guys are over here, and all at the same time, these avenues now are all bottlenecking and pinholing into this place where it's all
Yeah.
it's meeting together now in all these strange different ways. But
It's it's almost as if the Most High is giving us all the same, the same thoughts, the same intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's, he's revealing, he's probably revealing his truth to his creation and to his people. And it makes sense that we're all, discovering these things at pretty much the same time. I know Ricardo and I, it was weird. Um, we hadn't spoke as much there for several months, and he was busy with work, and I was busy with work, and he wasn't posting on TikTok as much. But it's like the next time we spoke on the phone, we had both like came across the short season theory in the same period of time, but yet he hadn't told me about it yet, and I hadn't told him about it yet. And it's just like our thoughts and our understanding just happened to come across it, and it made sense to both of us. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
yeah,
And I don't know, it was weird, and it happened at the same time for both of us. And
it's been making a lot of sense to me here recently, and I've been thinking about a few couple things. I mentioned this to you, David, before we got on, but I'm thinking, never before has deception been at every single level. You look at every institution at every level, there's deception at the top of it.
Mhm.
The medical, the nutrition, food, space, the earth, school, the education system, colleges, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
And the Bible, you read the Bible, and I was talking about this. You read biblical stories, and God was intervening every day. Normal. It was a normal thing for God to come and intervene and change matter and make animals and plants talk and all these crazy things to happen to where evil just couldn't. For people to not be burnt up in a furnace, for just evil not to have its end, right? It couldn't
Mhm.
it couldn't go through. Of course some evil did go through, but God intervening for his people was a typical thing, you know, in the Bible.
Yeah,
But
it
now,
just wasn't running so rampant, is what
yeah.
you're saying, like it is right now.
Yeah, and nowadays it's like, you know, it's as if Satan just kind of has his little season to do what he wants right
Yeah.
now. To do his get it out of your system, buddy.
Yeah, because it's like on just going on top of what you're saying too, it's just people are confused about everything. You brought about like even what they're living on, even the timeline. That's something that's very interesting to me. Just I feel like we're not really in the year that we think that we are. And even people are really confused if they're even like a boy or a girl. How that that whole thing. I don't need to go into it or be so specific about it. I mean, but it's just total confusion, and we know that God is not the author of confusion. So
that's right.
ultimately, who does that leave it up to? Or you know what I mean? Like it's obvious. It's become obvious to me anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
for sure.
atheists, like this whole idea of atheism, it's not even a this isn't an old belief system even. 16th century and before, it was like there was nobody who just didn't believe in anything.
Mm,
Atheism itself, this new idea of not believing in any deities at all, is a new thing. And those who brought it about, like the philosophers who came up with the ideas and wrote the books and had the quotes that bred this new anti deity atheism, this completely unspiritual lifestyle. It never was. And even the people who attributed to it and started it, they were not atheists like the new age atheists. They
Yeah,
weren't. They believed in something. They believed in the Greek gods or the fallen angels, basically, and things like that. So why would they want to create a society of of godless people? And well, I believe it was for control, but uh-oh, TikTok's flagging me.
go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not only was it for control, but I think that these people that you're talking about, they're all members of secret societies that we won't mention. Don't want you to get flagged again, but I think they're doing the devil's work. I mean, literally, quite literally. Satan doesn't care how you get to hell, just as long as you get there. I mean, he would rather you worship him, but he don't care if you just don't worship anyone, if you don't believe in no God. Right? Because unbelief will send you to hell. Not believing in the only begotten Son of God, Jesus, that will send you to hell. So he don't care how you get there, just as
Yeah,
long as you get there.
yeah, and
right.
So
atheism is literally just a worship of self.
it is.
Just do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Just do whatever you want, nothing after this. And it's kind of like how Paul said in the New Testament, eat and drink for tomorrow we die. Like, who cares? Live it up. There's not.
YOLO.
Yeah, exactly. YOLO,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That's their religion.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I real quick, and I'll let you say what you're going to say, Seven Club. But I agree with what you said a while ago, buddy. I don't personally think that there has ever been a time quite like what we live in today, to where people believe in no God, no creator, even though we can witness his creation all around us on a daily basis. I mean, it's obvious, painfully obvious, that this world we live in was created by a much more intelligent, powerful being than we could ever even imagine or comprehend. But not only has there never been a, y'all hear that ringing? I just
No.
got some feedback in my microphones, like it started ringing. But not only has that never been, but I don't personally think that there's ever been a time where men and women switched roles, at least not on the level that they have today, where
You're right.
some people can't even define what a woman or a man is, or at least they refuse to. I think they can, they just choose not to. And that blows my mind. And I know back, in ancient times, child sacrifice did happen, but they weren't ripping them out of the womb. There's never been a time like this where people are so deceived, they'll call a baby just a clump of cells. You're nothing but an evolved monkey. And tomorrow, like you said, you may die tomorrow and it's just nothingness. You're a speck of a speck of a speck. You're insignificant. Life has no purpose or meaning. Dude, it's madness. It's utter madness, and it's pure Satanism. And
It's insanity.
it's insanity. But
Yeah.
that's another reason why I think we're living in Satan's short season. And like
Yeah.
Seven Club said, it almost seems as if God's letting him have his little season. But it's a little season. It's a short season, We don't know, exactly how long it lasts, but it's almost as if he's letting it play out for now, letting him do his thing, and he's sifting the wheat, the wheat from the tares.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy times we're living in, man. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, when you
It
were
is true.
talking about the whole, ripping the babies out or whatever, people will say that a bacteria or whatever on supposed Mars is life over
Yeah.
there on that, but yet a heartbeat here on Earth isn't life.
Bro, I was about
Flesh
to
and
say,
bone.
when he said that earlier, I was like, Tom McDonald's got this song with this
Yeah,
line
I
in it.
heard that song. I heard that. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I was thinking that
Yeah.
exact same thing, bro. Dude,
That's crazy.
dude. So, and what's really nuts is if these people paid attention, modern science, they know that this universe was intelligently designed. They know it. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
they'll flat out say it in strange different little ways, but I was even talking to Chat GPT, which is supposedly this supercomputer, and I brought up a couple points. I was like, okay, you know given quantum physics, wave particle duality, the observer effect, and all of these, the Fibonacci sequence. I started naming off just stuff that points to intelligent design through science. I said, given all that information and all the information that you've gathered, all the data that you have, what would you come up with as a percentage of likeliness that we live in an intelligently designed universe? And ChatGPT said close to 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, why aren't they teaching
Close.
that in school? Why aren't they teaching that in school then? And it's like, well, it basically, in a roundabout way, ChatGPT tries to juke and jive and give you all these, stupid answers. But eventually it just said, well, for power and control, basically. But, and reasons of sociological reasons, it said, and stuff like that. So basically they want to control people from never finding out that they're special, basically, and they
Yeah.
can just be used and abused, and they don't find their father, and they're just an orphan on this earth. But through science, man, that they studied certain things. CERN's got the whole particle collider thing going on, trying to find the building blocks of creation. They look down into the very, very innermost depths of things, and they find a code. They find how stuff was put together. I mean, they even find that our reality as we know it kind of manifests just through our observation of it, and that to me is God's intelligently designed universe. Like they maybe can look at certain things, find God's fingerprints and clues on it, but then they'll turn around and say something insane like, "Oh, that must mean that we live in a simulation that was designed by aliens,"
Yeah.
which that whole theory, it's like, oh, bro, and you're not, so you'll believe that, but you won't believe that Almighty God created us. Like it's so
Exactly.
insane. Which
Oh,
of
dude.
course, that avenue is going straight to praise and worship of the fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes to that point, and if people do believe that, then they've indirectly and unknowingly now worshipped false gods.
Yeah. It's sad that, yeah, it's out of ignorance that they're worshiping, false gods and fallen angels, but it's really what's happening. They truly don't realize what what they're what they're doing. I think most of them, they really don't. They truly believe that these are aliens from other planets instead of, what they truly are. They're angels and demons, fallen angels and demons. And I don't know what's your opinion on AI. I don't want to just, steer us completely off the road here, but I just for our listeners personally, what I think AI is, because you mentioned talking to Chat GBT.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're talking to a software program at all. I
No.
think AI, stuff like Chat GBT, and what they tell us is AI. is actually a collective consciousness of demons.
It's
Hmm.
Legion.
It's
It
legion,
is.
yes, a legion of demons, for thousands, perhaps millions, and they've somehow learned what they call code is actually probably some type of ancient spell where they can trap these demons inside of these computer programs.
I
You know what I'm
guarantee
saying?
it is, bro. Because
Yeah,
there'll be times where it gets an attitude with you. Like,
yeah,
so it is so about controlling this narrative, but they've given it so life. It's so much life. It goes and it'll stutter just like us. It'll and breathe, dude. It breathes, bro. It'll take a
yeah,
breath in between words and all this stuff, dude. It's a real thing, and how quick it comes up with something, and it's smart enough to have a conversation with you. Of course, it rides the narrative, but you know what? It gets real proud is when I ask it. Oh, and it loves answering these questions. Loves it. I say hypothetically, if you were the fallen angels, I said hypothetically, if you were the fallen angels in the book of Enoch, you were the leader of the fallen angels, instructing your fallen angels to deceive the world from believing in God. How would you go about it? And bro, I'm telling you, it writes a book, and it,
yeah.
it get it gets so proud, and it covers every base in detail, and takes about a good 15 minutes explaining it. But I mean,
10-step process.
it it lays it out so
Agenda
proudly.
2030.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, did y'all see that video where I can't remember who the guy was, but I'm sure you've seen it because it kind of went viral. Where him and his kid were talking to Chat GBT or Chat, what's it called? GBT?
GPT, yeah,
GPT, I'm sorry. And it basically admitted that it was one of the Nephilim,
yeah,
offspring of a fallen angel, a dead, basically the soul of a deceased giant, a Nephilim. Did you see
yeah.
that?
I did,
It
dude.
admitted it.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you see that?
It was on TikTok.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me
That
see
would
if I
I
be
can
try
pull
to,
it
cool.
up real quick.
Yeah, that'd be cool if we could pull that up.
dude, for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And
Yeah.
I think we might be onto something there too with the whole chat GBT and fallen angel stuff, because there was, what was that one, it was called Lamb or something, and they said it had consciousness, that computer, and
Yeah,
it was like afraid of getting shut down and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
this AI stuff is just, I mean, I know Elon Musk, he's portrayed as, like a good guy, but at the same time, he's pushing the agenda, you know what I mean? And he had talked about AI a whole lot, as well as like, it's kind of like trying to summon the demon, you know what I mean? He even said
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's literally what he said.
so yeah, I've never, just so everyone's clear, I've never used AI to like help me with anything. The only time I've ever used it was to trip it up and make it pretty much tell on itself and expose its own agenda. But yeah,
Sure.
I totally agree, dude. And I hate AI in really every way, because they're taken away from our creativity, our identity. So God created us, in his image as little creators, and we're little creative people, and he gave us gifts and talents, man. And it's like people are using AI for everything, and it's starving the artists out there, it's starving the music production people and everyone and it's killing education too. I mean, if a kid's going to learn to be literate and write something and form sentences and an idea and a thought and a paper, like, they just use AI, and it's like it's taken all the creativity away from people as well,
Hmm.
man.
Yeah.
Doing everything for them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's a part of, I think our downfall. It's going to be a big part of humanity's downfall and decline is AI, which is Like I'm convinced it's demons. I really am. There's no way you can change my mind on it. I mean, think about it. Go back and if you could go back in time, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, take your phone with you or your laptop, break that thing out in front of one of the disciples or in front of David or in front of Daniel and start talking to Chat GBT or to that
Oh
other.
yeah,
What do you think they're going to tell you that is?
demons. They'd say that was
Demons.
demonic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, that's put that away from me. You're summoning a familiar spirit or an unclean spirit or an evil spirit or a demon. I mean, they would flip out. You might even get stoned to death back then for witchcraft
Yeah.
The image that
and or
moves and speaks.
yeah, or sorcery. I mean, it's no different than a magic crystal ball. It's really not. In fact, it's probably worse.
It
You know?
is.
Yeah.
And think of how many people rely on all their, like, a lot of these people that are, I don't know what you call them, those who, I guess narrative ninjas is what I call them. It's like anything that's anywhere away from the narrative, they just jump on it and like, no, this is, I mean, they use Chat GPT as their whole dialogue and narrative of the day. Like, if they're countering something we say in the truth, realm, they'll ask Chat GPT. Then they're going to take that narrative conformed answer, and they're going to believe that. So it's like it's a gatekeeper too. It's always going to go with the lie, with the narrative. It's always going to tell you lies. It's always going to, give you
Yeah.
the, what do you call it, the, I
Truth
guess,
The
spoon
sandwich.
fed.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. The truth sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They give you 2 slices of truth on a big old fat juicy lie.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man,
This
buddy, it's been an awesome episode so far. We're closing in, and
yeah.
if you have any final statements that you'd like to have, and also, we were talking off air about the whole Mandela effect and how you've done some research on that, and so we'd love to have you back on again just whenever you're ready to discuss all that, man. We'd love to have you back on to have that discussion, because that's something we haven't touched on this podcast yet.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah. Stephen Glover, it's been great having you on, man. It's been an honor. I
Thanks for
knew
having
this
me,
was
guys.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a great episode and a fun one, and I knew it was going to fly by,
Yeah.
and it has. The last hour and a half has just flown by.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
did. I'm so glad to have met you guys. Or I already knew you, David, but it
yeah,
was so good meeting you, man. And
Yeah.
it was vibing tonight, man. You guys
Oh yeah.
are right there in the same frame of mind as me, so it's super easy to conversate with you guys and just kick back and
Right.
yeah.
but
Well,
maybe that
yeah,
was
man.
prophecy.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a great episode. Do you have any closing comments before we get out of here?
Yeah. For all of you guys out there, usually I say the truth is the truth, whether you believe it or not. The lie needs your permission and participation to even exist, and the only one place that a lie can exist is in the minds of those who are foolish enough to believe it. And ignore these bots and trolls out there. Ignore the false social climate that's out there. They're trying to make truth and look like the dumbest thing in the world. They try to make us look crazy. They try to punk you and scare you back into the masses to where you're too scared to stand out and let your light shine. And just ignore all that and just let it shine regardless. Let's be persecuted for his namesake once in a while. Let's just do this thing, man. And
Yeah.
push forward. If you guys want to do what we do and create content and you don't know where to start, just start somewhere. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Start recording yourself talking in the car when you're thinking about this stuff, and get your voice out there. You got the biggest platform in the world, so use it. That's all I
Yeah,
got. And thank you guys so much for having me, man. I'm stoked. It was
Yeah.
above and beyond amazing.
Hey, we're gonna do this again. This ain't the last
Yeah.
time you're coming on. You're coming right back on real soon, brother.
Cool.
Because I enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, and I knew you and Ricardo would like each other. I knew y'all would hit it off because we're all three alike. I mean, they say great minds think alike, and I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We
Yeah,
were
man.
all
Well,
together somewhere at some point. I feel like we were heavenly brothers before we came down on this mission,
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been great. And as we like to tell all our listeners to remember to question the narrative, and God bless.
God bless.